Welcome, everybody. Today we have with us Sheryl Edsall. Sheryl Edsall runs a beautiful yoga studio called Naturally Yoga, which she opened in 2001 in New Jersey. Sheryl, along with her husband Neil and her children Josh and Shauna, have been vegetarians for over 2 decades, and they're devoted to animal rights and healthy eating. They opened Nectar Cafe in 2012, helping others eat delicious foods that hurt no animals and are healing for the body. Sheryl is a graduate of the Masters of Ayurvedic Digestion and Nutrition 500 Hours Certification Program. Her main focus is working with clients on digestion and nutrition. She loves to feed people and hold retreats and cooking classes that focus on food as medicine. Sheryl, it's great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Can you tell us how did you get interested in this way of life?
It was probably when my son turned 7 and he's now 27. He decided not to eat animals anymore. And I knew it wasn't because of my cooking, because he didn't want to eat out animals either. He just said, I don't want to eat animals anymore. And something inside of me knew that was perfectly fine. So I learned how to cook healthy for him and for the whole family. And along with that came yoga. The beautiful gift of yoga came into my life because I was working with children. And I wanted them to find that inner love, that inner peace, and yoga was like the perfect medicine for that. So with yoga and with eating healthy, it just started to make perfect sense in our family and in our life.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So many people come to, how would you call it, a better way of life or a new way of life, or really start asking themselves deep questions when it inspired by their children.
Yeah.
When new life comes into the world, we suddenly feel inspired to live life well, to be the best that we can be, and it's great that that children bring that new hope for everyone and for
It's so
ourselves.
true. It's so true.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a great catalyst for change. Now, what about Ayurveda specifically? It seems to go almost hand in hand. You talked about how you got started because of food into this way of life, and then you came to yoga. Well, naturally, you probably came to the yoga of food, which is Ayurveda. So tell us a little bit about your. How did you hear about what Ayurveda? Where did all this? Where did it come from? What inspired you?
It's crazy because in the beginning, like I started practicing yoga in 1996. I got my first certification through beautiful integral yoga with Swami Satchidananda. And I heard of Ayurveda, but I thought it was because they'd always say the science of Ayurveda. So I always thought it was something really too heady for me, that I couldn't understand it at all. And it
Hmm.
was just too scientific because that's not the way my mind thinks. But once I heard Ayurveda and nutrition, Ayurveda and digestion, I was like, oh my God, I can do this. This is right up my alley. So
Hmm.
the first thing I did was I did a study for a year in New York City at Ayurveda's World. And I studied and began to understand that this is not difficult stuff. It's actually everything that nature's made of. It's beautiful if you can connect back with nature. And after that training, I found Joyful Belly because I was searching for another training. I was so thirsty for more knowledge. And of course, Joyful Belly is all about nutrition and digestion. And again, it was exactly what I wanted. And it was like the words that were said, the way it was said made perfect sense to me.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that was pretty similar to my own personal experience and how I got involved in Ayurveda, and with exactly the same objections up front. That when I first heard of Ayurveda, I thought it was going to be heady, and I thought it would just be restrictive. Cooking for me has been always been a way of life, and so placing some kind of artificial restriction on what I could eat was, that thought was. I was not welcome. I was not interested in having any restriction at all on that because it was kind of how I enjoyed my life was through food, um, and so it took me a while to recognize that Ayurveda was also artistic, that it was also creative, that it was a way for me uh, to kind of integrate health with living well, as
Yeah.
opposed to being austere and eating food that wasn't tasty. No,
So
no, Ayurveda is not like that at all. Ayurveda is very tasty.
it's not that at all, which is so amazing. It actually gives you freedom. And it gives you freedom not to follow a diet per se, or not to, it's intuitive. It
Yeah.
brings you into the place where you can listen to your inner teacher, your body, and say, what am I craving? Why am I craving that? And learning the tastes, learning how to not give up a food that you think you should give up because everybody says, oh, you shouldn't eat that, but instead spice it differently.
Hmm.
It's a whole open world out there when you study Ayurveda. I'm actually going for my chef training now in Ayurveda, the first chef training in New York City. I'm going to begin in September. Because I want to know immediately what to prescribe family and friends and students when they say, listen, I have inflammation, I have this going on, I have that going on. I want it right at my fingertips like you have, which is
Hmm.
so amazing. And I love to cook for people, like you had said before. But Ayurveda is a big open palette. It's so exciting.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not so much a list of rules,
Nope.
but a list of suggestions that you apply depending on how you feel. So the focus is 90% on body awareness, 10% on lists and other ideas. So really cultivating that personal relationship with food that actually allows you to answer the question, what do I want? What do I want to put in my body? What do I want to eat? And answering that intelligently instead of just reaching for the standard chips because you don't know what you're really what's really going to be tasty right in this moment,
Exactly.
right? The more I practice Ayurveda, the more I find that when I walk in the grocery store, that like food kind of leaps off the shelf, and I know exactly what I'm going to enjoy, not just what's going to help me.
And also during the training with you, the idea of liking something during a season, and then the same thing you loved in summer, you don't love in winter. Like that was huge, because how many people say, I don't like this, and they don't realize your body may not want that year. That's
Yeah.
not that now you don't like beans ever. That was such a big, like, so many ahas and awakenings during this training that just blew my mind, and also taught me how when there's certain things in your body that are off balance, that if you just pay attention to what it is, you can give yourself the opposite of it to heal it. Or
Hmm.
if you look into, what's happening through certainly your tongue and your elimination, they give you all the clues you need. Like, this is why it's so amazing. Ayurveda is a teacher, it is a friend, it is a gift. I can't say enough.
Great, great. Yeah, that's wonderfully said, and I appreciate the way that you can articulate that.
Yeah.
Um, Great, great. Well, how did you hear about the Masters in Digestion program, and
I,
and and
I
where did that spark comes from? Were you just a user of the website for a while, or?
I was just really anxious to find another training. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've been in yoga training since I began. As a
Mm-hmm.
yogi, we never stop training. But I did the one training in New York City, which I loved, but I commuted to it because I live in Jersey. Fine commute. But I needed to do something at home. I couldn't keep commuting. It was just my schedule. I do teacher trainings here. I do so many things here that it's just my schedule wouldn't allow it.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked online for an online Ayurveda study, and I was kind of scared to do online because I didn't know um, if I would show up for it. Not that I'm a great student, but if you have a choice and you're at home, I was wondering if I'd be just as good as I was when I had to travel. And you made the participation in the program so important, and I felt held responsible for what I did. And I think that was so good, because I could have maybe said, hey, I don't feel like showing up, or I don't feel like doing the homework. I had to do my homework every week because I knew I was going to be held responsible, and I didn't know whether
Mm-hmm.
I'd get called on, and I didn't know. So the format for the program was exquisite, and it wasn't too much, and it wasn't, and it was enough, more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really lucky, because when I saw it and I saw the online program, wasn't so sure if I'd be able to do it. I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, great. Great. And how do you feel like the course has changed you?
I think it's changed me in so many ways. First of all, I never stopped talking about Ayurveda. I'm happy to talk about people's elimination.
Uh-huh.
Um, the word enema comes up quite often, which never did before.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think it was just the extra piece of the puzzle of how much I love to cook that it just was a perfect piece for me. I just felt like, wow, I found my home, and that's how I
Yeah.
felt when I found yoga. This is in me. It just got set free, and
Hmm.
yeah, I use it everywhere. I use it. I just did a private consultation yesterday with a student, and just the little ahas that they get, they can't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, first is that you found a home, and the second is you see that your clients are also inspired by it and get it, and that its relevancy is not just to you as a person, but to everyone.
To everybody
Hmm.
and to everybody in my house,
Hmm.
like I cook for what's going on in the house too. I use it, and that's what it is. Ayurveda is full participation in your life in such a beautiful way, and you know that your body wants to heal. You know whenever there's something going on that it wants to heal, and you participate in that. You help with that.
Now, what are some of the ways that you healed personally while you were studying?
Inflammation in the body. One of the things that you said that I thought again was like, really? Um, you said that just because something's your norm, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy.
Hmm.
Because I always had a digestion that always was, fiery and, the when I was very young, they said I had the irritable bowel. So if I'll go to my medical doctor, he'll say, well, you always had that. That's just who you are. But by doing things through the Ayurvedic understanding, the irritable bowel isn't there. The quick exit is not there. My tongue has changed. Like you can't deny this stuff. It's like you use it and it works. And what I always thought was my norm, it just was my body didn't know how to do what it needed to do because for so many years it was doing it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, that was huge for me.
I'm glad it was helpful. I'm glad it was helpful. Every year we give the course, and the biggest or the most wonderful feedback is that it helps the students, and that's what we're always so deeply hopeful for, because
Yeah.
it is always a miracle. Yes, the application of Ayurveda is helpful, and it is kind of deterministic, and I mean, there's an approach that you can use for many different types of people, and it works again and again. But each time it works, it's always a miracle. Health is always a miracle, and so to experience that wonderful miracle, and to have a chance to participate in that with all the students in the program is very gratifying. And so I'm glad to hear that it helped you in that way. So, what was the greatest challenge you overcame in the course?
My thesis.
That's a common answer.
Oh my God, I thought it was going to kill me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was really it. It was very hard for me to, and I feel like, I mean, I talk all the time. I feel like I articulate pretty well, and I thought I was a good writer, but I guess it was just having to write it in a certain way that really made sense, as helpful to other people. It was just difficult, but you know, was what it was. Otherwise, I didn't find anything to be difficult in the training.
Was there a silver lining in that, cloud? Did you feel that somehow by the end of the process that it was useful and important, or do you feel like, oh, I could have just done without that whole thesis thing?
No, I think it was very important. I think I felt exhilarated when I finally finished and that, I got that final paper back that it was received. And I learned a lot about myself through it. I
Hmm.
learned about um, my willingness to keep working very hard to get to the point where that it was received well. And I had to work with all my yoga. I had to do everything, it brought me to a place where I had to learn more about myself. And so in the end, I think it was a product that I can be proud of. And I think it pushed me in a way that I was happy to be pushed.
Yeah, 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 and that is it. A lot of sometimes people feel a little underconfident in their ability to be a healer, or to operate in certain different contexts. Maybe they're used to just being intuitive, and so they stay kind of safe within that realm. But really, there's so much to helping a person heal, and there's and part of it can be academic. We need and operate on that level too. And people who take the thesis and see that through come out on the other end realizing, hey, I can do it. Like I can walk the walk and talk that talk too.
Yeah.
And so they feel more complete at the end of that, and they feel that sense of accomplishment.
It was I felt very much like I achieved something enormous, enormous. And I'm so glad to go through the process. And you and your team of people, there's clarity and there's kindness. I mean, over and over again. I mean, I've been teaching for a lot of years, and over again, I really enjoyed watching the way that you communicated with us when we couldn't understand something, or where we repeated ourselves, or we weren't making sense, or were making sense, whatever it was. You had such a wonderful way of guiding us, and I appreciated that so much, and in such a calm way, which just was really wonderful to watch as a
Thank
teacher
you.
as well. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a vocation. Teaching has always been a vocation for me. And so not just Ayurveda, but teaching Ayurveda.
Yeah,
Teaching has always been a great love of my life. I've always been a teacher. Even before I knew Ayurveda, I was a teacher. And I
right.
guess I'm still a teacher. And, I hope that you felt that my communication style was effective because I care about that a lot.
Yeah, no, it was very effective, and it was also, you have to kind of play with different personalities, you know.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I think it was just fun to watch you.
Well, Ayurveda gives you that ability that, gives you more ability to perceive other personalities.
Yeah,
Just the Ayurveda being an art of perception as much as it is an art of eating, and it gives you the ability to see different types of personalities and respond to them effectively. That gift of perception is something that I really valued when I was learning Ayurveda. Where we try to become experts at noticing.
yeah,
So, so
yeah. And
hopefully, yeah,
you almost let people off. I want to say let people off the hook, but if they have a certain personality or constitution, you kind of say that's who they are.
yeah,
I was just away with my family last week visiting my mom and my sister and my dad, and one of the things I kept saying to myself is I can't change them, I can love them,
yeah,
and their constitution is perfect, and how they are is, so, and that's exactly what Ayurveda
yeah,
says. It says
yeah.
this
Family
is
is
who
the family is the real field, the real place of action of Ayurveda, because we know our family members so intimately, we care about them so much, and yet at the same time, we are individuals, and with differences of opinion. The strength and resilience that Ayurveda gives the individual gives them confidence to be loving in a in such close quarters,
right.
and it also in addition to inner strength, because it gives you that perception and that understanding of other people's constitutions, you not only can forgive that people a bit more easily, but you can also have an inkling for the type of thing that would help them heal, or just help you work with that personality in an easy way, which
That's exactly
which
it.
is helpful to you and to them and to the relationship.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah,
Absolutely true.
yeah,
Absolutely true. You know how to relate to people in a way that's more healing and more empowering. That's what it is.
yeah, yeah. So would you recommend the course to other people?
Of course I would.
Okay, good.
I send so many people to your website because I also feel like your website is, how do I say it? You're so gracious in how much you offer on that website. You give so much information. I feel like it's just such an incredible website to go to and navigate through and get recipes. I mean, I've been on it constantly for recipes. And when I have consultations with people, I always say, go on his website. Make sure you check out different things that he's got going. I have somebody who's ordering some enema stuff from you guys right now. So I love your website. I totally suggest the course as well. I think it's life changing.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you sending those folks our way. And I hope that they find something useful there on the site.
Yeah.
So now, are you seeing clients? I said you mentioned that you recommended an enema to someone. Are you seeing clients? How are you using some of the things that you learned in the course professionally?
Yeah. Well, I do have, the studio that I have here allows me to have private students 3 times a week, and then I also teach public classes. And so if somebody comes to me for an Ayurvedic consultation, which they do, I
Mm-hmm.
book an hour session with them, and I've been doing it pretty regularly,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. And then there's a studio that's opening close by here. They're opening for eating disorder, and they want me to be on their team to do cooking classes and do private sessions
Mm-hmm.
there. And like I had mentioned before, I'm going for chef training in Ayurveda, so that's also going to add another realm because I do cooking classes here. We have a cafe down the hall. I do Ayurvedic cooking classes down there. So I use it as much as I can, and anybody who books a class or a private with me, I am so excited to do. I've actually gone into people's homes also and done cooking classes with groups, that mothers groups, and actually the children also made some wonderful stuff that the kids are loving. I have a 6-year-old grandson, so he and I cook all the time together, and he's amazing at what he eats, and so it's exciting for me to use that with him too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard from others in your community how um, how excited they are that they get to learn from you.
Hmm.
People have contacted us, and it seems like you're reaching out to a great group of folks out there. And your studio again was Naturally Yoga.
Naturally yoga,
And
yes.
where are you in New Jersey
We're in
exactly?
Glen Rock, New Jersey.
Glen Rock, New Jersey. And that is what part of the state?
It's North Jersey.
North Jersey.
We're about maybe 40 minutes from New York City.
Okay, great. And you have a website, stuff that people can reach
We
out
do
to?
naturallyyoga.com.
Naturalyoga.com. Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. I really appreciate all that you have shared with us about your experience in the course and all the great stuff that you're doing in your local community to bring Ayurveda to people.
Thank you, John. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.